There can and should be a debate as to who is India's second best investor. There can be no dispute as to who is India's best investor in this generation. Joining me, of course, is the one and only billionaire, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Rakesh, welcome to the show with Jakes and me. What are your thoughts about this LSE conference that we're about to address?
Well, it's good. It's always great to be with students. And just as you always said that the future battles of Trafalgar are not going to be won in the waters of the Atlantic, but in the
playing fields of Eton.
Playing fields of Eton. So it's great always to interact with students. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there personally. I'll really miss it. It was one of the... I don't know why, but with this child, we always have a fascination for everything English. And I had a fascination with the London School of Economics. And I'm not saying it just for saying it, but for whatever reasons, I couldn't study there. But it's great to be interacting with people from there today.
Does education, which you talked about, and it's kind of appropriate at, in today's forum that we talk about education. And you've had, to an extent, what you would consider education enough to make you sort of take on the world, a street fighter. And people have run out of adjectives, but do you have any regrets that you could have studied a lot more and become a lot less successful as a corollary?
Jakes, I have no regrets really in life about anything, except my habits, right? So I don't regret, and I don't think that education is what, makes you street fighters are born, they are not made. Because it comes with determination and guts. And I don't think the determination and guts comes, with education. Education gives me the ability to understand. Education gives me the ability to be civil. Education gives me the ability to reason. Right? And I think I did a chartered accountancy. I think it's one of the best educations anybody could have.
Sure.
Because it's not a very glamorous education, but it's a brass tacks education. And it makes me understand financial matters. It also gives me an understanding of law, which is very necessary. Like to interpret the budget. You need to understand the law, what the finance bill means, what the explaining notes means. So I think I had that education which gave me the right cutting edge in terms of understanding. And of course I'm a street fighter. I don't know whether it came with my education, but a lot of people lose that because they are educated. The research shows that formalized education takes away entrepreneurship. Because you reason and you go into analysis.
What were your first ideas? Did you want to be a trader or did you want to be an investor?
Well, I wanted to be an investor. I never thought I'll trade. But when I did not trade, I came to the market in 1985. I think my first forward trade in life I must have done in 1988. I leveraged because I had no capital. So that leverage itself, in a way is a speculative trade, but the Badla trade or the futures trade, I did only in 1988. Because I had earned money. I started with 5,000. By 1988, I was worth 70-80 lakhs of rupees. I wanted, how do I invest? I need capital. And my family won't give me any capital. My father-in-law, even if he gave, I wouldn't take. Right? It's the costliest form of capital. So I thought, how do I get capital? And I had 70-80 lakhs, so I thought the only way I can get capital is by trading.
So what event kind of transformed this capital? Whether it was a big trade, was it a big idea? What one event sort of transformed this into serious capital, let's say?
See, there was a series of incidents, Jakes. First of all, I made about 20-25 lakhs of rupees in 1986. In 1985, I was worth 5,000. I invested that money. That money did not appreciate, but gave me a dividend income of 40,000-50,000 rupees a year. Then that investment became worth 80-90 lakhs of rupees in 1988. That was shares of Tata Power. Only sold shares of Tata Power. Then, we got very bullish on Telco. So I did my first few forward trade in life. I bought 500,000 shares of Telco at 90 rupees. In 4 months, they were 120. So I was worth another crore. Then there was a company called Sesa. Now, everybody...
That was a breakthrough investment, wasn't it? Sesa.
Yeah, it was a breakthrough forward trade and investment. So, the iron ore prices, at that time, the Brazilians were the main exporters and the Japanese were the main importers. They used to set world prices. And the prices for the next year was set in advance. And an 18% price increase had been given in a commodity. But people in India were just short selling Sesa day and night, including my good friend Mr. Damani and Mr. Kabra. And I used to explain my bullishness and they should laugh at me. And I bought, and there was one Mr. Bajaj in the market to explain to everybody. But nobody would listen. But
you also understood that the rupee would depreciate and that would be the...
No, Ramesh, never. My idea of buying Sesa was, I bought at 27, 28. I thought the price will be 60, 65 in a year. I'll sell. And Citibank was buying for the Ruyas because this was owned by an Italian company and they wanted to sell. And Ruyas wanted to get into iron ore. So at one stage, Mr. Bajaj was buying. I bought 500,000 shares, and Citibank was buying every day for the Ruyas. And the price just flared up to 60, 65 in just 3 months. And I remember I sold bulk of my shares at 60 rupees. I retained about 100,000 shares. The last 25,000 shares I think I sold in 1992 at 2,200.
Wow.
And this made my net worth 3.5, 4 crores. And then there was a budget of Madhu Ganpati. Everybody was so bearish as if there's no tomorrow. And how education helped me. How education, how knowledge of law, that everybody would say there was crazy thoughts that they'll impose a tax on private education. I mean, your son goes to Kathir, you have to pay 100 rupees a month to the government. Sir, it's a minority government. Education is state. You have to amend the constitution. Yeah. The government's not for 30 crores of revenue. So other people have got berserk. Right? And, don't forget that the first reform, abolition of estate duty, reduction in direct taxes, was done at the initiative of Mr. V.P. Singh. And he was the Prime Minister. And the impression was that he will, and I knew that this fellow is a businessman, although he's a Rajput. He will not give a budget which will hurt industry. And people are talking of increase in MAT rates and he abolished MAT. People are thinking of hike in excise duty on aluminium, increase in import duty on aluminium. So a complete path-breaking budget, and Ramesh, my net worth next year was 20 crores.
So clearly, to make outsized returns, you need to walk the untrodden path. You need to be out there in the wilderness where the crowds are elsewhere.
You got to think independently, and you got to have the guts to put your money where your mouth is. And most important thing is, you don't need to get overwhelmed by anybody who's successful. Just because somebody is successful doesn't mean that you don't listen to them. But it doesn't mean that just because they have a point of view, you cannot have a different point of view. I know Mr. Nimish Shah told me that even if income tax is abolished, the index won't go up by 10%. I said, I don't agree with you at all. He was a figure at that time and he's a figure today.
Yeah,
I respect him. So I think you need to think differently. You need to have the courage to, withstand views of you large personalities.
Rakesh, one of the things that you're famous for on the street, you have many colorful sayings. One of them is, invest before you investigate. The fact is, if you find something, go buy it and then do all the research. Is that still a driving force of how you look at markets?
Sometimes markets give such compelling opportunities. I mean, Diwan housing. Housing finance, I thought, one of the best areas. 230 rupees book value, 6% yield, 4 times earnings, growing at 20% for the last 10 years. Right, available at 120, 105 rupees.
And
I gave an order for 5 million shares. We'll think about it later. Yeah? I mean, such ridiculous valuations. I'll tell you, Lupin. I bought Lupin because I didn't know what was under, I didn't know what was DMF. But I knew one thing, that Ranbaxy had earned 250 crores rupees in a single product. Lupin had the only injectable cephalosporin approved FDA plant in Asia. They were a single filer for a product whose product size was $360 million, and the market cap of Infosys of Lupin was some 200 crores. What is there to think? Right? So those kind of situations, I think, invest now, investigate later.
And does the market then tell you also to back up the truck in these situations? Because they come so rarely.
Yeah, and then you research later. No? I mean, I bought my first 5 million in DHF. Before I bought the next, whatever shares I bought, I did a lot of further research. I mean, today it is, it's like meeting Ashwar Rai. What are you thinking? You data without thinking. Yeah? So this is such a situation.
Is that true also, just to cut in, of the current Indian market? Do you feel that it's as you famously said, a buffet, you got to choose what you have to have? Are you that sanguine yet on Indians' prospects?
No, I'm not so sanguine. I'm really far more circumspect.
Why not?
Because valuations are not, DHF today is 525. So there's a difference between 125 and 525. See, today in the Indian markets, what has happened? That there are a category of quality stocks whose valuations are unbelievable. But I think quality also has a price. And finally, if I buy, I don't think that how good a company, the long-term sustainable PE is more than 25 to 30 times earnings. And if I'm buying PEs of 60, 70, then if it earnings double in last 3 years, Ultimately, as a long-term investor, I'm not looking for any earnings growth, price growth. On the other side, there is lower quality which is available. But for that lower quality, you have to have a lot of patience. So my saying is that by the sheer valuation and the fact that the market has a run up from 5,200 to 9,000, I think market would consolidate here at these levels rather than run away. And also I think this, the kind of volumes and the kind of rises we are seeing in individual stocks, it is indicative of the fact that we are going to pause. The fastest, as the market moves higher, the rise gets faster.
The fastest rise is before the top.
I don't think that I'll make a top which could be a top for a year or 2 years, right? But we could surely consolidate.
Intermediate top.
Intermediate. No, you've gone from 5,200 to 9,000. Sure. Right? And individual stocks have had a dream run. Even the good quality companies, 1,000 rupees Tech Mahindra is 2,800. Like 600 rupees Lupin is 1,800.
So a lot of the rally is being built on hope, they say. Earnings haven't really caught up. And obviously you are worried the fact that last couple of quarters the earnings have continued to lag.
There is a section of the market where the earnings have done very well, especially in pharma and software.
Right.
But there the valuations I think are well priced. Those companies need time. Right? And what is it? Lupin is one of my largest investments. If you see the screen, I think Lupin won't stop before 2,000. If you see the screen. But boss, 600 to 1,800, I'll be patient here. Sure. I don't want to jump in and buy tomorrow. Especially when I'm already fully invested.
We have to take a break. We'll take a break, come back and chat some more with Rakesh Jhunjhunwala.